Welcome back for another Sins of a Solar Empire 2 video. This time we are analyzing the Vasari Skirmisher for the Vasari. This is the light frigate for the Vasari. You start the game with 3 of them as the game launches, and they are the first and only ship you can research other than the Scout that requires no additional research. This ship has a base durability of only durability of 120. Starts the game with, let me pull it up. What we've got here is I'm trying something new, so we're doing a little different. So it starts with 660 shield points, 630 armor points with an armor strength of 48, meaning you're at, what would that be? 168 with your armor for your durability, and 910 hull points with a max speed of 960, which is quite fast. And then the single weapon it has on it is a medium pulse weapon with 12 DPS and 200 Pierce. When you have it fully upgraded, you have a max shield points of 820, shield regen of 3.5 per second, assuming you have taken some shield damage and you're not in shield burst for the Alliance. 820 armor points with 84 armor strength, which pushes you up to just over 200 durability on it, and then hull points of almost 1,300 of 1295. Shield burst, I believe I can do this. Give me 1 second. Damage, receive damage is Control D. So I can damage the ship slightly. So shields are regenerating because I believe this is Exodus. Yes, this is not the Alliance. I believe that the cooldown is between 15 or 25 seconds. We'll get it into hull as well, so you can see the hull regen. Hull repair is 3.5 and shield is 3.5. The one medium pulse gun goes from 12 DPS up to 17 with a maxed out weapon of the energetic pulse charging. So we're getting 42% additional damage. It is the only weapon it has, and analyzing it real quickly, you'll notice that it has a very small firing arc. I believe it's 5 degrees in either direction. It did just receive a buff in the most recent, or I believe it was the 1.4 patch, where it will shoot at anything as it's turning, which gave it a little bit of extra damage against stuff like corvettes, or just kind of when it's passing, or it'll shoot at anything that passes in front of its crosshairs. I believe the range is right around 4,000. Give me a moment, I should have had this up before I started talking. Frigate Skirmisher. Range is 4,200. Damage per shot is 24 with a 2-second cooldown, leading to the 12 DPS to start with. It has a build time of 25 seconds and a cost of 135 metal and 15 crystal. So for the most part, you can field about two per 25 seconds on just your homeworld. So every 25 seconds, you could support probably 2 of these from a building factory. Let's see. So other things that we can talk about with it. If you are going up against the enemy factions like the Advent, because your weapon has 200 Pierce, the ships that you can do full damage to, besides just the armor, we're talking just durability, is the Light Frigate, the Disciple, The Corvette, the Acolyte, which you're probably not going to be hitting very much of, you can fully pierce the Tempest, except for the armor, and you can fully pierce the Drone Host, which is their cruiser carrier, except for the armor. You can pierce the Guardian, which I don't believe has any armor, and it's just shield. You can definitely fully pierce their Purge Vessel because it only has 100 durability. You can also fully pierce their other support cruiser, the Subjugator. And then for the two that you can do 50% damage to, it would be the Sentinel, which is their flak frigate, or a flak cruiser, and the Illuminator, which is their main, which is their beam cruiser, their long-range beam cruiser. And then the heavy cruiser, the Destra, you do 33% damage to the shield and hull, and then obviously the armor, you do even reduce damage to that. Against the tech, you have the ones that you can do full damage to is both Corvettes because they have 0, the Cobalt Light Frigate, the Siege Krosov has 200 durability, so you're right on the edge, and then the armor does give it a little bit of extra resistance. Same with the Garda, and same with their the carrier cruiser, the Percheron, and the Hashiko. All of those are at 200. And then the ones that you do roughly 50% damage to, because I'm going to count the Javelin in this, is the Ogrov and the Javelin missile cruiser. The Javelin is at 325 durability, so it's probably about 30% instead of 33%. I don't know why they decided to include that extra 25, but it is there. And then the Harka has 400 durability, which you do 33% damage to the shield and the hull. This ship did get the buff in 1.4 to go up from 150 Pierce to 200, which, while that 50 Pierce may not seem like a lot, it actually does matter when you are shooting at capital ships. Capital ships, as most of you I'm sure are aware, have 500 base durability before you get to the armor, or any other additional resistances it might have added. And so by getting that 50 extra durability removed, you essentially go from, I think it was 22% damage with your medium pulse gun to about 25% damage per shot, which, while it might not seem that big of a deal, generally once you're early to mid game with these ships, you're fielding these in the range of 50 to 100 or even 200 ships. Would you do 200? Yeah, we'll say you did 200. Probably doing about 100 of these at a time, which is 700 supply worth of light frigates. You'll do substantial damage at that point once you're to the higher levels. As far as matchups go, the significant ones, and we'll talk about Vasari too, because I guess there are mirror matchups. You fully pierce the durability of the Scout, the Raider, the Defensor, the Skirmisher Light Frigate, which is yourself, the Canrack Missile Cruiser, the new flak frigate, the Warden. You are just barely not reaching max against the Cruiser Transporter. Let me close this. You're just barely not passing the durability on the Transporter. I believe it was buffed from 180 to 210 in the last patch. And you are also just quite not getting the durability on the Destructor. I don't know why they decided to make it 210, but it is 210. And then the Overseer's also at 210. So I think you're doing like 90% damage or something to those, which isn't really that bad. The ones that you are not piercing is the Oppressor, which recently got a buff, and then a slight nerf in this most recent patch for a supply cost of 16. I think it was 15 before. And then durability, I think, used to be 400. They buffed it to 420. And then buffed the pierce on the wave cannons from, I think it was 180 all the way up to 300. But we'll talk about the oppressor in another video at some other time. The penetrator is at 330 durability, so you're doing just under 50% damage to these. But by the time these are starting to come out, you'll actually have a bunch of oppressors anyway, because the current meta is oppressor spam for the Vasari. And then the last one is the Fabricator, which has 330 durability. Has actually quite a bit of shield points, armor points, and hull points on it now because it costs an Anvar. But you'll see it's a substantially high 24 supply cost and moves as slow as 2 of your capital ships with a 660 max speed at base. So as far as matchups go, for the most part, what you are shooting at as these skirmishers, you're shooting at enemy light frigates, you're shooting at enemy support vessels, and you're shooting at their carriers. So, for example, if you were up against the Disciple, some of the tests I have run is where you are is early game with no buffs on them. I already have all of the research is done at this point. I could probably just restart it, restart the map so that everybody's at 0 research again. But basically, because the Disciple comes in at 4 supply, they will outgun you, and it's usually about 10 for them and about 7 for you. Or no, they'll have 12 or so when you have about 7 yourself. So they do win quite substantially early game with no researches on either side. The Disciple, for the most part, holds the edge against you in a count standpoint and for a supply standpoint, just because it's got more ships. It takes longer to whittle through it, and it will survive a lot longer with shield burst, even at tier 2. The Tempest has the ability to kite around you. I did not run any tests with that in mind, because for the most part, against Advent, right now, what you should be doing is getting some defensors where you are outsupplying the Tempests in a 2-to-1 supply, but your Disciples will do most of the damage. Or, I'm sorry, your Skirmishers will do most of the damage to the Tempests, and the Defensors will mostly just be there for countering the missiles. You can use these to chase directly after carriers, like the drone host or the Percheron. Both of those carriers received nerfs in this most recent patch, where they no longer go into crippled hull. I understand why the devs tried to do that, but it's probably better that they don't have the crippled hull and they just make them a little bit more tanky if they were worried about them being bursted too quickly. So things that you can do is when you get in the fight, because your skirmishers are so fast, is you can send them directly at the carriers if they are problematic for your fight. Like, let's say you don't have enough strike craft to fight off a bunch of bombers or fighters, or you don't have enough defensors that'll help clear the air or enough wardens. You can send your skirmishers directly at the carriers and just take them out that way. In the past, in the old patch, like 1.3, that was something that actually made a lot of sense, is you'd grab a ball of skirmishers of about 45 or 50, and you would kill the drone hosts or the Percherons in about 3 pulse gun cooldowns, and just target them one by one and knock their fighters out with that. You can use them also to go after Guardians. I don't think that it's the best choice to go after Guardians. The Guardians offer no combat value, so even if you do get through them, what the enemy damage ships are doing, like the Disciples are actually just hitting you as hard as they can while you're trying to kill just a Guardian. So they've maybe killed 3 of you, and you maybe killed the Guardian, and then you're already at a numbers disadvantage that way. So while the Guardian seems tempting, you either have to have so many skirmishers that you can 1 or 2 volley them to just immediately get rid of them, or you have to completely ignore them. Those are really the only two options we've got there with the Guardian. Purge vessels, I'm actually going to switch to purge vessels so I can get speed. So these max out at 700 speed. Where's the base? So these max out at 700 speed. So they're quite slow. And as the skirmishers have a 960 base, you can chase these down and blow these up quite quickly on their way in, especially if you don't have defensors ready, or if you decided not to chase with anything that was more valuable. We talked about the matchup with the Disciple already. Kind of talked about the Tempest matchup. I didn't run hard numbers like I did in the Warden patch, or the Warden video, but for the most part, Disciples, if you have an even count, meaning like they've got 10 Disciples and you've got 10 Skirmishers, the Skirmishers win pretty hard from a count standpoint. But if you are going just from a pure supply versus supply standpoint, like 70 supply of yours versus, I guess it would be 68 supply of Disciples, the Disciples win, and it's actually not all that close. So if you are fighting an Advent with Disciple spam, you probably want to pivot into Defensors, just because the Disciples can't really shoot the Defensors, rather than go mass Skirmishers. Similarly, the Defensors kind of, if you're going to stay in Tier 1 for a while, Defensors kind of beat the big three on the Advent, and then also will help with fighter control. So Tier 1, I would say against Advent, you probably just want to see what you're up against. If the enemy does go, I'll say full, Tempest, meaning they'll get one level of hostility. Let me turn this off. So they'll get one level of hostility very quickly, and they have 250 max supply. And then let's say that they went and bought all of the Tempests to get to 250. So they would be probably here, because they'll have 2 scouts, they'll have a capital ship, and then they'll have 30 Tempests. There's no way you can really get to 60 Defensors to manage this. Plus whatever capital ship they have, probably the Halcyon, which is the one that they'll usually start with. And if they go fighters, they'll help deal with your Defensors. So the Tempests, and assuming only that they went mass Tempest, then mass Defensors isn't quite going to work, and then you have to go back to light frigates. Because the Skirmisher did get a durability buff from 150 to 200, instead of taking, I think it was like 42% damage from Tempests, you take 33% damage before you get to armor. So it's, in theory, the Tempests got nerfed against light frigates, especially because light frigates will just shoot at anything if it crosses their firing arc now, which was in the 1.4 patch. And then the Subjugator, they are quite tanky. They are a huge pain in the butt for you by the time that they start coming out in Tier 3, because they will just, for 8 supply, they will cancel out an Oppressor, probably 2 in their lifetime because of how tanky they are. So chances are you are going to want to focus fire these as soon as a fight starts, just to get them off the field against the Advent. Skirmishers will do this quite well. As you can see, they don't have armor points, so you're doing full damage to them the entire time, but because of how tanky they are, it will take a long time to chew through them, similar to the Guardian. You'll notice the Guardian doesn't have any buffs here. I'm just going to quickly grab these buffs on them, because this is what they'll be at when you're fighting them. Go away. Let's taking a while to come out. Let me get shield capacitors. So we'll get those out. So they're quite tanky by the time that they'll be coming out. Advent did get new hull and armor point upgrades. The hull ones I think are better than they used to be, and neither of these two support ships actually have any armor on them, so you're not chewing through it, but you do have to deal with shield bursts. So when it comes to killing these two support ships, you will most likely be focus firing these with your skirmishers, as well as even probably your oppressors by the time that the subjugators come out. And then you may even be shooting capital ships at the Guardian or something just to deal with them, depending on how many they have. But the skirmishers will help you with that. In the Illuminator fight, I did take some notes on that one specifically. Give me 1 second. Where is it? So in a skirmisher fight, you actually win in a equal supply fight against the Illuminator, assuming that the Illuminator does not have any medium beams being used. The medium beams are the side ones. They have a goofy angle offset. I think it's like 80 degree or 75 degree offset towards the front. So actually I can quickly build one, I think, and show you. So we'll grab it. So you notice this side beam here. So it's got a wedge kind of in front of it, like a cone in front of it, this way and this way, where it can't hit anything. Let me see if it's got the range on it. Yeah, there's the range. So if you surround it with skirmishers, even if it's equal supply, I think I did 700 versus 700, so it was 100 illuminators, or no, 100 skirmishers and 70 illuminators. The skirmishers come out on top if you are balled up in front of them. If you are split with 30% on either side here, and then we'll say the other 40% in front, if the Advent Illuminator does get the ability to use even just one of its beams for most of the fight, you lose quite handily. Whereas if you keep them just on that front one, you actually win quite handily. So it's important that we make sure that when fighting the Illuminator, to not let them kind of barrel into us and ball up and use those side beams. But a good player is going to bring those in to do extra damage to us. So let's go back to the... Alright, so we'll talk about the tech now. With the tech, where's their frigate factory? Alright, so against the Cobalts, this is a very similar story to the Advent, but for the most part, we win on equal supply and we win on we definitely win on equal numbers. But on equal supply, the Cobalt actually doesn't hold up against us, especially if we have the first tech of the regenerative hull. So Cobalts are definitely at a disadvantage to us early game. The ones that you do have to watch out for is if the enemy has gone heavy into the Shuriken, or actually, yeah, that's the one you want to worry about. The Shuriken has gotten buffed in the 1.4 patch, and the matchups heavily favors them. So if the enemy goes with a Sova, the Sova carrier, and uses the mobile Corvette factory talent or skill, it can very quickly support any fleet that it has with additional Shuriken Corvettes. Scouting is going to be the most crucial in this matchup, because if the enemy goes either flak frigates or cobalt light frigates, we can just spam skirmishers and win. If they go with the corvette, we lose. And so if they go corvette, we have to counter with defensors, and if they counter those defensors with Garda, then they win again. But the thing with the problem that they have is if they kill all their defensors, then they're stuck in a lot of Gardas, and if they're stuck in a lot of Gardas, we actually win the supply or the resource fight if we come back and build skirmishers and then beat their flak frigates. Because flak frigates, for the most part, I think are going to start being used more in every fleet as just kind of a catch-all. And so I think that this will be kind of the new meta, where you'll probably see 30 to 40 of these in a late game fleet just at any point, just to catch spare missiles or catch fighters or who knows what. But in the early game, if they're Cobalt, you can go skirmishers. If they're Garda, you can go skirmishers. If they are Shuriken, you absolutely cannot, and you have to match with defensors. Other ships that we can fight, I mentioned the Gauss, the Caleb Gauss frigate. The Gauss frigates are actually not that bad. Let's see if we can quickly get this research up. That one, nope. Find research, toggle instant research, and turn off debug. So I'll just quickly grab that. The coil shock. So the coil shock is a new ability that they got in the 1.4 patch. I don't have as much experience with it, but as you can see, it will do shield damage, and it bounces to 3 targets with the coil shock. And I think I showed the shield points. We have 660 on the skirmisher with max shield points researched. So hitting a couple of these is going to definitely damage all of our shields. Against for the Exodus, because you don't have shield burst, that's actually really going to hurt you. But for the Alliance, I think that it's actually not the end of the world if the enemy has gone mass Caleb, because coil shock, even if it goes off, then you're going to get your shield burst off in about 20 to 25 seconds, I believe. And then there's not much that can happen there. So the Caleb itself will do a lot of damage with one single shot, but the DPS is so much lower than yours that this isn't a threat to your skirmishers. This is a threat to your capital ships because of the Pierce. So if they've gone mass Caleb, you have the option to match with skirmishers, and you will win the resource fight on that and the supply fight on that. And it's not even close. But you definitely have to make sure that these stay away from your capital ships, because as you can see, max speed of 800, they will catch any of our capital ships, except for a Marauder with a level in Distort Gravity. Pertrons are very similar to the drone hosts, where I kind of mentioned that you can, if they are a problem from the enemy fleet, you can take a ball of your light frigates and single target them. A good player is either going to split their fleets up or even pull carriers back as they start to get low, because they stay at the back of the gravity well. So you need to be careful about diminishing returns, like maybe your skirmishers aren't killing stuff fast enough, but you still need to at least make them run, stuff like that. Definitely consider using them to nuke the Hashikos in a fight. The combination of Hashikos and Javelis or Harka are quite problematic for us as a faction, because their repair droids are just, so efficient at getting their heal back up. And then skirmishers have a very difficult time getting through the Harka and getting through the Javelis, just because of the higher durability on these ships and the high DPS that they offer for their supply cost. If you see a lot of enemy Javelists, I hope you're not still in Skirmishers, because these are tier 3 units. And hopefully you've gone more Oppressors, or you've gone a lot more Canrack or something that can actually get through the Harkas. But the reason you would probably have a couple of light skirmishers, or the light frigate skirmishers in your fleet at this point, is to go through the Garda quicker. Gardas are only 4 supply. You can see how little health they have, and so hopefully you are prioritizing your skirmishers on the flak and then onto the robotics, while your oppressors deal with the 2 heavy threats. And then once the flak is gone, your Canracks can come up. Your Canracks can deal with the heavy threats or the capital ships. So your light frigates are targeting everything in this category right here, is these 3, and then the 1 support. I mentioned the Shuriken does beat us. The Stillat also definitely beats us for the exact same reason. The Shuriken will do it in a more efficient way for supply cost, but the Stillat can then double back and then can either fight capital ships or it can fight heavier cruisers. So be aware of the Corvette matchup with the tech, especially if you're not ready to support with the Fabricator or the or Defensors just being on a closer factory. Alright, so let's get to the light frigate again. And then for against the Vasari, this ship's also going to be, I mean, you're going to go even with enemy skirmishers. The big turning points that you probably have to think about if you are going up against another skirmisher is whether or not they've gotten into the 2nd level of rapid pulse cycling in the early game, or how many levels of regen or hull, or if they have regenerative shielding available to them in the early game. These defensive techs, I would say, are priority if you are fighting another skirmisher heavy Vasari player. The rapid pulse cycling, while it's good, it doesn't really replace that many skirmishers. So focus on the defensive researches first. Get the shield regen going. Make sure you've got the whole regen going. That's where you're going to get the most benefit for these. And then against the Canrack, I would say that against enemy Canrack, you probably want to be going Defensor anyway, just because it's a 2-pronged thing where you can use 2 Defensors for every 1 Canrack. It shoots down their missile and essentially negates any damage they would do. And it kills them very, very slowly, but it's not that outlandish to send a couple of Defensors and just kill the Canracks. Against Wardens, you absolutely want to go Skirmishers, because you cannot go Raider or Defensor against them, and you definitely can't go Canrack against them. So in the early game, the only option really, if the enemy does have a significant number of Wardens, is to go Skirmishers against them, because as I said, you can't go Raider. Raider loses because it gets hit by both point defense and missiles, and because it's rotating around the Warden actually gets to fire pretty much all 3 missiles on cooldown against them. Same with the Defensor. Because the Warden is tankier than the Defensor can put out, this actually does a better job of clearing the Defensor than the Defensor does of clearing the Warden back. And then Canrack can't clear through the point defense on the Warden. So in this early game, your only option if the enemy is heavy Warden is to be either heavy skirmishers or heavy capital ships. Capital ships like the Cordal Devastator will actually deal with these quite well, but it's going to have a hard time catching it because the Warden has a 720 base speed and the Devastator has a 660. So if you want to get offensive against a large warden fleet, you'd want the faster skirmisher to catch up to them and kill them while they're running away. Whereas the Cordal is better if you're in a defensive fight and you know that the enemy's not going to run away from you. You should have the Devastator instead against the Wardens. So I would say in the Vasari matchup, as somebody else has mentioned to me, it is kind of a rock, paper, scissors, whether you go heavy defensor, heavy canrack, heavy warden, or heavy skirmisher. As you can see here, the defensor beats the canrack, the defensor beats the skirmisher, but loses hard to the warden. The warden beats both the defensor and the canrack and loses to the skirmisher. And then skirmisher, if you were going skirmisher against canrack, I think the canrack actually ends up at a higher point. Let me double check. Shield 820, armor 410, hull 825. Let's get those quickly. Let's get one out. So we've got 1020, 535, 1175. So if these two were to fight, I think it would actually be, it might be canrack favored in a big enough group. But the skirmishers will actually do a decent chunk to the canracks in a fight. And then the warden, the warden we kind of talked about. The warden just cancels these two out. The defensor cancels this out, and skirmisher, and I'm just imagining it's here just for my purposes. And so you do want some skirmishers, I think, in the Vasari matchup now, just to deal with wardens, especially if the enemy went heavy defensor, or I'm sorry, heavy warden. You can't go defensor. You have to go skirmishers to fight back with them. Other ones, the oppressor. If the enemy has gone oppressor and you're still in skirmishers, you're in deep trouble. Oppressors, I think, are just too meta right now, and I know that a lot of the complaints in the Discord are the oppressor by itself is just too effective. Against the transporter, that one actually isn't terrible. It's the same exact kind of matchup that I talked about with the tech and with the advent, where you can send a ball of skirmishers after transporters and just one by one kill them if the enemy has a significant amount of strike craft. The transporters really can't defend themselves against the skirmishers. So they either have to run or split up in the gravity well if they're in a fight that they don't want to take. Against Penetrator, Penetrator is not really it is a threat for us, but it's not really a threat to skirmishers. They come out so late in the game, all the way out at the end of Tier 4, and then a lot of players probably won't even be building them until they have the Tier 5 Berserker Overcharge tech. I'm still not quite sold on it as a ship yet. It's got a 720 max speed, and there are so many ways for enemies to run away from it if you're trying to use them to kill fleets, that really all you can do with these is maybe you build 10 or 20 of them and you can kill a starbase with them. But if you're building that many and the enemy has significant defensive or significant weapon upgrades, the Penetrator is just not going to break through them. So I think that killing the Penetrator should be left to other ships in your fleet and your skirmishers, unless that's all the enemy has left. The skirmishers, I think, should just kind of leave these alone and let something else shoot them. You can absolutely use skirmishers to chase after the Destructor. The Destructors are a slow max speed of 600, which is as slow as our slowest capital ship. So having something this quick, you actually, against Vasari Destructors, siegecraft. You actually almost have to go skirmishers or raiders because, as you can see, they've got 200 durability. So you can't really go defensors because defensors will just take too long to get through them with only their 90 pierce and their 0 pierce gun. So there's just nothing that they can do quickly to get through them. With the overseer, you can shoot, or you can do the same thing where you kind of ball up skirmishers and alt click to get through them quickly. Excuse me. Having a skirmisher fight against another Vasari, let's say you've got 10 of your skirmishers versus 9 of theirs plus an overseer. The overseer side wins. Actually, it wins decently substantially because of that intimidating presence. So it is a good ship to complement your skirmishers, and you either want to keep it safe on your side, or you want to make sure that the enemy's not able to steal it, and if they do steal it, then you kill it as quick as you can because intimidating presence is a 15% damage loss on your side. And then fabricators. Fabricators are super slow, but they've gotten more durable. So you can send a couple after the fabricators if you think that they're a significant enough problem. I think that they are usually a significant enough problem that it warrants chasing after them with certain ships. But if your light frigates are going after the fabricator, then chances are you're losing a bunch of other stuff that the light frigates could be shooting at instead. And you'll actually, depending on how many skirmishers you have, you'll kill stuff that the fabricator's putting out anyway. So that's all I've got for matchups. We'll talk real quick about tech. Actually, let's talk about the civilian tree first. So there is no antimatter on these. They don't have a skill. The devs have said that there's a likelihood that they may add some sort of a skill to the light frigates that comes in later. And I know in the previous sins, what they had was a on-demand hull regen, which I think it was like 40 hull a second on their own, but they couldn't shoot or move. So maybe we'll get something like that again. But at this point, there is no active skill that you can research for them. Phase jump charge time, always a good thing to have. And then the Alliance gets the friendly jumping speed, which I think is also good. In the damage tree, again, there's no researches for it at this time. Maybe we'll get something in a future patch. As far as weapons go, you do have the pulse weapons. That is the only weapon that they get the entire game. I like to actually skip the first one because I don't think 6% is all that significant. Even if we've gone for, let's say, 20 of the skirmishers. I do like the rapid pulse cycling once we get to tier 2 if I have gone a lot of skirmishers. And chances are you've actually either gone some defensors as well. But pulse is the one weapon I think that we kind of get a lot of anyway, just because it's on the raider, it's on the defensor, it's on the skirmisher, it's on the warden, it's got the point defense for the oppressor. It's also the point defense buff for 3 of our capital ships, and the Titan, and our point defense turret, or our pulse gun defense turret. So we do get these researches kind of anyway, just because we need that point defense to be so strong. But the second one is really the first time that it becomes necessary if you have a lot of skirmishers. Again, because it's basically from 6 to 18, so it's a plus 12. And then we get another 12% bump from 18 to 30. This one's also good. Even if all you're getting it for is the point defense on the oppressor or the point defense on the warden, you still would get this, and it would still be a bump to your skirmishers to continue putting their damage out. And then the last one we have access to is the one at the end of tier 4. Neither of the turret servos or the waves are impact this gun. And then the hull points, always grab the hull points just to keep them alive that much longer. 12% max hull points is good. The extra in combat regen is good. The you want more hull regen as you can get them. And then same with the armor points, is get those armor points. As you can see, I think it was 36, so we're up to 84 now. So it's quite the jump in armor strength. Let me add the other one back in. Where'd it go? This guy. So you start with 48, you end with 84. So it's a decent jump up to get that armor. There are a couple things that you actually do that hurt you quite well. It's enemy light frigates, even with that armor. So maybe it's not the best thing for these. The armor is actually something else, or for other ships that really need it. The shield regen in combat. This is the tech that kind of gets you able to be on par with enemy disciples. If the Advent have gone heavy disciples, or the tech have gone heavy cobalts. So grabbing this keeps you alive that much longer. The shielding, the increase in max shield, the increase in shield regen are both good again to help you fight the other enemy light frigates. The shield burst is available for the Alliance. Again, I think it's either, I know it's greater than 15 because the Corvettes are 15 seconds, and I know it's less than 30 because the cruisers have 30. So I think it's either 20 or 25 seconds on the shield burst cooldown. And then the final shield regen is the last one we really need. So again, I think at most points in the game you should probably have 20 to 30 of these in your fleet just to chase down certain problematic ships in enemy fleets. And assuming that the enemy, because there's a lot of running in this game, this ship is probably the only one that we have that'll catch up to ships that are running. Other synergies, the Devastator with jam weapons will help your DPS stay up and the enemies drop down. So that'll help with you. The volatile nanites, you can use the volatile nanites to hopefully try and quickly clear the enemy fleets. So you can drop volatile nanites on something, which gives you a bonus damage on your skirmisher, which then, because it's 18%, I think it's 18% damage received increase. And then they explode and start hitting friendly ships. So the Cordal, the Skirmisher is a good complement to the Devastator. The Evacuator can help with Gravity Warhead and Subspace Rupture. Gravity Warhead will help you chase down that much easier, especially for maybe if other light frigates are faster than you. And then the Subspace Rupture, because it will do constant damage to the enemy fleets, and your cooldown is so low on the Skirmisher for your shots that just having that little bit of bump in damage on Subspace Rupture can sometimes turn a fight completely in your favor, where you would maybe lose it without it. The Skirmisher carrier can use Repair Cloud to heal both the hull and the armor on the Skirmisher. The Repair Cloud is the only way to heal the armor on the Skirmisher while in combat. So you kind of want to keep, I mean, I know you probably want to keep a Skirmisher carrier kind of safe for the most part, but if you are heavy subcaps, you might have to bring this in just to get the Repair Cloud off, just to keep these alive for that much longer. Distort Gravity does help with the boost and move speed here and the turn rate. Helps you kill things just a little bit quicker maybe, because you can keep turning that much quicker. But again, because you have a 2-second cooldown on your gun now, and the buff that as long as something's in their crosshairs, they're actually just going to shoot it when they're turning. It's not as big a deal as it used to be to get that turn to occur quicker. And then with the Desolator, you don't have a whole lot of synergy with the way that that ship works. And then on phase resonance, I've spoken about this before, but mobility, I think that the phase jump speed is actually kind of trash. So 2 levels of mobility aren't really going to make or break the game, especially when you're phase jumping at like 5 times your moves, or at a constant speed anyway. The phase jump speed, maybe like if you're chasing something like an enemy capital ship, the only thing that a phase jump speed might do is have you get there like a split second quicker than you would otherwise. Max speed, so 6% boost to max speed, I think gets you just a hair into 1,000. So getting even just that 6% will bump you up, and you can run away from disciples at that point. The Advent disciples have the better base move speed of all of the light frigates, and I think Tech is just a hair behind. So we actually start the slowest, and then when we get to tier 4 for mobility, that 12%, actually bumps us up faster than the Advent, and then the mobility 5, that max speed, again bumps us up past the Advent. The combat one actually probably is the actually I'll skip utility completely. There's no antimatter or cooldown on this, so it's not really a big deal. The combat one, having even 1 point in the reload, so that would take us from 2-second cooldown to, what would that be? It'd be very small. It'd bring us to 1.94 second cooldown. That may not seem like a lot, but if you have 100 of these in a fleet somewhere, that actually probably adds up pretty decently, unless you're basically one-shot killing everything. So each point of reload removes 0.06 seconds off of our 2-second cooldown. So a 15%, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you go from 2 to 1.7 seconds of reload. And then the weapon damage, 9% is not going to make or break anything we do. As you can see, like I already kind of said that I'm not going to mess around with 6%, because the 6% is like, what did I say? So it's at 12 base, I think. So 12 base is actually going to be quite low for us for a boost. And then we get no bonus from phase missiles. So I do like to grab 1 point in combat just with an early phase resonance. And then if I'm heavy capital ships, I'm over here anyway. And then mobility 3, you really can't go mobility, in my opinion, until you get to 3, because 1 and 2 are just so bad. All right, that's all I think I have on the Skirmisher. Please leave any comments below if you think I may have gotten anything wrong. Happy to be corrected, because I'm not exactly the best at this game, and happy to learn something new. Thank you, and hopefully the next video comes out sooner than this one did. Bye.